Welcome, genre fans! In this episode, we apply folk horror's 3 thematic tendencies to films from countries in Asia, with a focus on folklore and mythic creatures. The films we're discussing originate in folklore or contain strong folk horror imagery and elements, even if they are actually gothic horror, supernatural horror, or another genre. Let's get into it. In the folk wisdom still applies idiom, folk horror films are straight adaptations of folk tales or urban legends that frequently deploy medieval or agrarian environments to comment on current socio-political issues or reinforce national identity. Taiwanese supernatural horror The Tagalong is based on a 1990s urban legend where a demon who appears as a little girl in a red dress attacks and possesses victims. The Girl in Red, or Mosina legend, is rooted in the more ancient folklore of Moshenzi, a mountain monster who abducts people to its forest lair. A story of generational conflict, The Tagalong pits a feminist radio DJ against the Moshenzi to save her boyfriend after his grandmother goes missing and mysteriously reappears. The malevolent force is unleashed when Taiwanese mountain hiking rituals to avoid malevolent spirits are broken. Calling someone's name, tapping on someone's shoulders, and looking down at one's feet. A Silence of the Lambs-style demon head hawk moth signifies the demon's curse. The HBO Asia series Folklore portrays several supernatural creatures, though more typically in urban spaces rather than folk horror standard rural settings. Set in South Jakarta, Indonesia, a mother's love shows a struggling mother losing her son to legendary Wei-hao, a spirit that steals neglected children and starves them on a diet of leaves and feces, ultimately cannibalizing their bodies. Mangdal is a Korean episode featuring another flawed mother-son relationship. The mother tries again and again to appease her psychopathic son, ultimately killing him a ghost bride to prevent him from becoming the bachelor ghost, Mangdal Gushin. From Thailand, Pub is a poignant meditation on personal and cultural grief, featuring a journalist interviewing a Phipop, or carnivorous ghost that eats human and animal viscera. A segment from Singapore entitled Nobody shows international workers on a construction site being routinely abused by the land developer. When their digging uncovers the corpse of a young pregnant girl with a nail through her neck, they respectfully bury rather than burn the body. Now as a Pontianak, or vampire spirit of a woman who could not give birth, she wreaks vengeance for her own rape and murder, and kills on behalf of the mistreated workers who treated her body with such respect. Early Japanese horror spotlights gothic settings and supernatural horror elements, frequently taking place in a haunted mansion. Japan was itself a major imperial force, which imbued its folk horror with a nationalist tenor suited to isolationism. Highly nationalist societies tend to cherry-pick and favor certain indigenous folk legends and art forms, in Japan's case the Kwaidan. The Kwaidan originated in the Edo period, which saw an end to feudal chaos, a renaissance in art forms, and increasing isolationism. They are folk tales, typically featuring ghosts, demons, and monsters called yokai, which translates to strange apparition. Most frequently revolving around karmic retribution, Kwaidan consists of 2 kanji, kai meaning strange, mysterious, rare, or bewitching apparition, and dan meaning talk or recited narrative. Based on Lafcadio Hearn's collection of Japanese folktales, the anthology film Kwaidan consists of 4 segments, each following the folk wisdom still applies tendency. We'll discuss 2. In The Woman in the Snow, a Yuki-onna, or a vengeful ghost, spares a traveler during a snowstorm on the condition that he never mention the experience. He meets his ultimate demise once he confides the encounter to his beautiful young wife Yuki, who is the Yuki-onna in disguise. This segment imbues the rural setting with surreal backdrops of eyeballs, bridging the supernatural and folk horror genres, and adds to the atmosphere of karmic punishment of the main hero. In Hoichi the Earless, a blind young musician performs the ballad of a historic battle to a spectral court of ghosts. The priests from the temple paint the Heart Sutra on Hoichi to make him invisible to the ghost samurai. However, they neglect to write the sutra on his ears, so the samurai rips them off. We wanted to call out this section for its extensive use of Kwaidan mythological figures and the prologue of the battle, which share an aesthetic similarity to The Woman in the Snow, with its color scheme and surreal staging. Together, each part of the film displays the easy adaptability of the medieval Japanese rural setting, with its attendant ghosts and demons, to the folk horror genre. Japanese folk horror often centers on corrupt samurai and disempowered women, conceived in an atmosphere of post-war defeat characterized by a high level of class stratification. Ugetsu, or the Rain Moon Tales, is an anti-war jidaigeki, or period piece, with a gothic horror storyline focusing on the corruption of samurai and women's disempowerment. It is a ghost story adapted from Akinari's 1776 Kwaidan, The Lust of the White Serpent, concerning an ambitious potter seduced by the ghost of a princess who died before she could experience love. Lady Wakasa and her servant entrap the potter, putting him under a love spell, until a priest breaks the illusion by saying that Lady Wakasa was killed and her mansion burned down. Staunchly anti-war director Mizoguchi was drawn to the Sengoku period. The social ills caused by constant civil wars of that era echoed in the post-war Japanese landscape. Japanese folk horror also draws on kabuki and no theater. No theater was intended for upper-class audiences and frequently featured ghost stories, whereas kabuki was an everyman form closer to folklore. Like Ugetsu, Onibaba is a black-and-white jidaigeki set during the Sengoku era. However, Onibaba is a stronger folk horror entry with a vivid rural setting, a hell pit littered with the corpses of rogue soldiers, and horror elements centered on a Hanya mask from No Theater. When the unnamed mother character removes the mask from a mysterious samurai, she discovers his disfigured visage. This reversal of his earlier statement that he wears a mask due to vanity foreshadows the end, where the mother transforms into the titular demon hag, unable to remove the mask. Black Cat Mansion and Kuroneko typify a strain in Japanese folk horror called monster cat horror films that prominently feature the bakaneko, or supernatural cat yokai. In both instances, the cat laps the blood of the female victims to gain its powers. Black Cat Mansion uses the frame narrative of a doctor attempting to nurse his tuberculotic wife back to health in a country mansion, only to be haunted by a mysterious hag figure who torments and nearly kills her. A priest relates the medieval story of a short-tempered lord who kills an honorable samurai in a fit of rage after losing a game of Go. The lord conceals the samurai's corpse in the wall of his mansion, infusing it with a spooky gothic atmosphere. The samurai's ghost returns and informs his mother of the true story behind his death. Unable to properly avenge her son, the mother commits suicide. A cat laps up her blood and transforms into the bakaneko yokai. Kuroneko features a mother and daughter-in-law seeking vengeance against the corrupt samurai of medieval Japan. They come back as onryo, or vengeful spirits who take the form of a cat after being raped and murdered. Transforming into bakaneko, the women take the form of apparitions resembling their earthly forms, only to seduce and kill samurai by biting their throats. Kuroneko uses several kabuki conventions like smoke to signify the presence of ghosts and wire dancing to simulate flying. Additionally, the mother dances in a no style. Based on a 1913 stage play by Izumi Kyoka, Demon Pond revolves around the literal dwelling of a dragon who threatens to flood the valley below unless a bell is rung 3 times a day. Scholar Yamazawa unexpectedly encounters his long-missing friend Hagiwara in a house by the Demon Pond. Hagiwara had been collecting folk tales in the countryside when the elderly and dying bell tender urged him to take his place. The 1979 film makes extensive use of tokusatsu, or practical special effects, that involve actors wearing elaborate costumes. There are several underwater scenes featuring Princess Shirayuki, a crab, a carp, and other underwater creatures. On land is the prototypical folk horror setting, a rural valley community suffering from drought who refuses to drink water from the demon pond because they believe it to be unlucky and poisoned. The pond itself is magical in character, its stream producing colorful rocks like dragon scales and creating a recurring tinkle noise, leading the surrounding valley to be named Harp Valley. The films in the Yokai Monsters trilogy set human drama against a pastoral backdrop inhabited by Kwaidan creatures. The first installment, 100 Monsters, tells the story of a corrupt landowner seeking to demolish a Buddhist temple and housing development. A telling sign of the landowner's villainous character is his disdain for the ritual reading of the Kwaidan, which stipulates that all those present must participate in the extinguishing of candles to expel the curse. The yokai creatures, who will feature in the 2 sequels, become become angry at the landowner for disobeying and help a plucky ronin to thwart him. Tokusatsu effects are used extensively. There is a cursed carp, a kasa obaki, or umbrella monster, a rokurokubi, or a woman with an elongated neck, and others. The Great Yokai War centers around the yokai fighting an ancient Babylonian monster, whereas the last installment, along with ghosts, finds them deployed in another plot centered on corrupt samurai. And that's our exploration of Asian folk horror. Next time we'll be moving on to folk horror from Africa. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and select all so you can know first thing when we post. Don't forget to let your film nerd friends know about our channel. Comment with your favorite Asian folk horror movie, or tag us on Instagram or Twitter. Thanks, and see you soon.